Hi everyone, I'm Joe from ubisend, CTO at ubisend. Don't worry, my talk doesn't have any chatbots. Sorry to Dean for have to endure that, but I think you got through it pretty well in the end. Yeah, I'm CTO at ubisend. I have the unfortunate pleasure of working with Dean every day from this office. We're just down the corridor if you ever want to come and see us. To start with a little bit about me, I started life growing up in Norwich until I finished college, and I started as an apprentice telecoms engineer. Eventually followed my girlfriend down to London, and I carried on working as a telecoms engineer, driving in and around London for the next couple of years, which I really hated, and decided it was time to make a career change, and ended up at Kingston University studying internet computing. Studied there for 3 years, graduated, and embarked on a knowledge transfer partnership, which is a partnership between a university and a business. Mine was Kingston University and a small business based in Kent called Select Security Systems. My task for the 2 years was to completely redevelop their whole web infrastructure, internet-facing infrastructure, and amongst other things, one of the key jobs I did was take Bike Register, which is the national cycle database, from 50,000 registered bikes to over 500,000 registered bikes. So 3 years ago, I moved out of London, moved back to Norwich. That's my wife in the middle, who was my girlfriend, who I followed down to London. I married her 3 years ago, and then earlier this year, she gave birth to my little girl Ruby there on the left. Yeah, and then, around about the same time, I moved out of my office down the shed. I was still working for the same company, but based out of my shed in Norwich. I moved into Whitespace with these two mugs, and we started ubisend. And that kind of brings us up to date. So, to start with, what is this talk all about? Now, my brother-in-law picked up on the fact that I was doing a talk. He spotted it on LinkedIn or something, and his exact words to me were, "I'm glad I'm not the only one that has to speak in corporate gibberish," which obviously wasn't my intention. So, to put it simply, what I'm going to talk about today is ways of having conversations with your users, customers, subscribers across multiple messaging channels. So let's start by taking a look at where we are today. If you can, I'd like you to kind of ignore WhatsApp for now, because for the purposes of this talk, we're talking about messaging apps that we can actually integrate with, and for the time being, WhatsApp is a closed book. We can't do anything with them. So if you take a look at the rest of the market share, it's predominantly Facebook Messenger and then a fairly even split between the rest. If we take that same data and put it on a map, you can see that most of the world is primarily their number one messaging app of choice is WhatsApp. But for instance, North America is mainly Facebook Messenger, and interestingly, China is pretty much solely WeChat. Which is pretty interesting. I mean, I'm based in the UK and I use WhatsApp, I use Facebook Messenger, and for some reason my brother got me and my family into, we have kind of a family messaging group, but we use Viber. I don't think, does anybody else in here use Viber? Yeah, not very many. So what does this mean? Well, essentially what it means is if you want to build any kind of conversational messaging platform, or any kind of messaging platform that allows you to converse with users, subscribers, whatever you want to call them, to make it accessible anywhere in the world, it's probably not going to suffice to use Facebook Messenger alone. I want to start by, or this next section of the talk, I want to start by bringing up this quote. It's from Duncan Anderson, who's CTO at Watson Europe. They provide kind of NLP and AI as a service. And he says, because chat is mostly textual today, you might think that the differences between technology channels would be trivial. Unfortunately, they're not. And the next section of my talk is going to kind of go through the differences and nuances and challenges between of building one kind of conversational bot, whatever you want to call it, across multiple channels. And we're going to do that by talking about, I think, 4 different types of UI. To start with, there's quick replies. Now, I think Facebook probably do this the best. That's bottom left down here. Essentially, a quick reply is if you want to ask a quick question and provide the user with a way to quickly respond without them having to type the response. So good for surveys, that kind of stuff. Facebook gives you you can write a piece of text, and underneath you can provide up to 11 buttons. And they kind of scroll left to right. It works really nicely. Telegram is top left up there. you kind of can get the same sort of experience, but you have to kind of hack it around a bit. You have to use their built-in keyboards, which are a little bit, they're not trivial to use essentially. And then line bottom right doesn't support it at all, so you kind of have to do some sort of semi-graceful fallback. In this instance, it's just tell us reply with the right number. I should mention my talk primarily focuses on Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and Line because they're the ones I have most experience with. They're all integrated with ubisend at the moment. So then we come on to buttons. Now, buttons generally sit under a small piece of content, or it varies from provider to provider. So, for instance, Facebook Messenger will only allow you 320 characters of copy, and then you can have underneath that up to 3 buttons, I think it is off the top of my head. Line will allow you 1,024 characters and up to 5 buttons, and Telegram you can pretty much do what you want. I mentioned at the top there button label length, so under here you can see that Facebook allows you, I think off the top of my head, it's 20 characters, and then it will kind of shorten and put an ellipsis at the end. So again, nothing is uniform across all of the messaging apps. Then we come on to structured messages, which are kind of a nice way of delivering a piece of content. So typically you can add an image, a title, a little bit of content about what it is you're talking about. You probably, if any of you have TechCrunch or The Guardian, as Dean mentioned earlier, if you subscribe to their messages, you'll see that they make quite a lot of use of structured messages. Because they'll give you a snippet of what the story's about and then an action button underneath for you to link out to read the full story. Again, varying amount of content supported, varying number of buttons allowed, and if you look, Telegram, again, we've gone for a kind of fallback of piece of text, image, link, button underneath. So that's, again, they don't support it. If you want it to work the same across all messaging apps, these are the kind of things you have to think about. And then finally we come on to carousels. Carousels are essentially the same as the structured messages I mentioned in the previous slide, but they allow you to have multiple structured messages in one message, so you can just slide across it. Again, if you have a subscribe to TechCrunch or The Guardian, you'll see that they make a lot of use of it. Again, not supported at all by Telegram. It's very difficult to make something that even looks like it on Telegram. Facebook Messenger, I think you're allowed up to 10 carousel items. Online, you're only allowed up to 5. So there's all these things you have to kind of bear in mind if you want to make an interface that works across all different messaging apps. So that leads us on to what you can do if you do want to build a conversational interface across different messaging apps. Well, if you have the technical know-how and you're a developer, you can read all the documentation, roll your own solution, and then maintain connection to all of those endpoints. I wouldn't want to do that if I was you. Secondly, you can use a middleman. Now, there's a couple of different kind of message aggregators around, of which ubisend is one of them. Oh, it's that bit off. So obviously I'm here with ubisend today, and I built ubisend, so I know exactly how it works, so I can tell you the kind of things that you can do. So ubisend aims to kind of take that pain away of managing all the integrations of different messaging apps. Out of the box, we have currently support for Facebook Messenger, Telegram, Line, and SMS, and we have in the pipeline a further 26 integrations, so things like Slack, Skype, WeChat, Viber, all those kinds of different messaging apps. So you'll be able to log in. You can sign up for an account for free. You can have up to, as Dean found out earlier, 100 subscribers for free, and then you'll start moving into the paid tiers. If you don't have any technical knowledge, you can build, I wouldn't call it a bot, but you can build in a similar way to kind of email providers, so MailChimp, Campaign Monitor, those kind of services. You can build kind of drip style campaigns, so on day 1 send this message, on day 3 send this message, on day 5 send this message. And then once you start building up a list of users or subscribers, you can then broadcast messages. So if you have some kind of event coming up that you want, like for instance John, if you've got another event coming up and you want to let everybody in your group, your subscribers know, you can log into ubisend, compose your message, hit send, and it will just let everybody know via their messaging app of choice. You can have one-to-one conversations, so anybody who signs up with, messages you via a messaging app that you have integrated, you can log into ubisend and you'll be presented with a conversational interface like this. You can then reply with any one of those messages interfaces that I went through earlier in the presentation, and you can respond one-to-one with that person using the messaging channel that they prefer. It's got built-in reporting, so for any campaign you send or any individual message or any broadcast you send, you can see the number that was successfully delivered, the number that was successfully read, the number that if they contain links, the number of links that were clicked. It has kind of a unified notification system, so if you are managing multiple messaging channels and you don't want to have to log into each one of them, you can just log into ubisend, and every time you receive a message from any of those channels, you will be notified centrally. And we also now integrate with Messenger and Slack if you want to receive those notifications in either of those channels. Oh, and if you do have the technical knowledge, you can use our API. So all you have to do then, if you do want to build a bot or some sort of conversational interface across lots of different messaging apps, you just have to maintain connection to one endpoint, the ubisend endpoint, which hopefully makes things a lot simpler. So takeaways from me today, messaging apps are taking over. The UI across messaging apps is not uniform and far from uniform. Managing communication and building bots across multiple messaging apps is pretty difficult. And depending on your use case, a message channel aggregator might make your life a little bit simpler. So that's basically it from me, unless anybody's got any questions.